A nation shocked. The assassination attempt on Donald Trump. The news spread like wildfire, leaving the nation in a state of disbelief and fear. July 14, 2024, Butler, Pennsylvania, a small town that would soon be thrust into the national spotlight. A day etched in infamy. A day that would be remembered for generations to come. Former President Donald Trump stood before a roaring crowd. His presence electrified the atmosphere as he spoke with his characteristic fervor. A sea of red hats stretched before him. Supporters filled with hope and admiration hung on his every word. The air crackled with anticipation. Then, chaos erupted. Gunshots shattered the air. Panic seized the crowd. The joyous rally turned into a scene of terror. The gunman, later identified as Thomas Matthew Crooks, had struck. His motives, shrouded in mystery, left many questions unanswered. He fired 8 shots aiming for the former president. Each shot echoed the fragility of safety and security. The crowd became a torrent of screams and fear. The once unified gathering was now a scene of chaos and confusion. Trump was rushed away, his security detail scrambling. America watched in horror. The swift actions of the Secret Service were crucial in that moment. The sanctity of democracy felt violated. The very core of American values seemed to tremble. The peaceful transfer of power, a cornerstone of American ideals, seemed under attack. The event cast a shadow over the nation's democratic principles. The nation held its breath, praying for Trump's safety. Vigils were held, and people came together in solidarity. The attempt on Trump's life was a stark reminder of the fragility of peace and the ever-present threat of violence. It highlighted the deep divisions within the country. The attempted assassination sent shockwaves across the globe. The world watched closely, concerned for the stability of a global superpower. World leaders condemned the attack. Their statements reflected a unified stance against such acts of violence. Messages of support poured in for Trump and the American people. Social media was flooded with prayers and well-wishes. The event served as a chilling reminder of the vulnerability of even the most protected figures. Security protocols were re-evaluated and heightened. This was not just an attack on a former president, it was a direct assault on the nation's sense of security and stability. It was an attack on democracy itself. The incident underscored the importance of safeguarding democratic values and the need for unity in times of crisis. Security lapses, a chain of errors. The attempt on Trump's life exposed a series of security failures, shaking the very foundation of the protective services. The Secret Service, tasked with protecting the former president, faced intense scrutiny from all corners, including the public and the media. How could this happen? Questions swirled, fingers were pointed, investigations were launched. The public demanded transparency and accountability. The security apparatus, seemingly impenetrable, had failed in a spectacular fashion, leaving everyone in shock. Communication breakdowns plagued the security detail. Intelligence was mishandled, warnings were ignored. The chain of command was in disarray. The usually well-coordinated machines sputtered and faltered, unable to respond effectively to the emerging threat. The Secret Service, once a symbol of unwavering protection, found itself on the defensive. Critics demanded answers. Lawmakers called for hearings. The pressure was immense. The agency vowed to conduct a thorough review, determined to identify the missteps and prevent future tragedies. They promised reforms and better training. The investigation revealed a cascade of errors, each one compounding the next, leading to the ultimate failure. From the initial threat assessment to the deployment of agents, mistakes were made at every level. Training protocols were questioned. The security perimeter was breached with alarming ease, raising serious concerns about the effectiveness of current measures. The gunman, it turned out, was on the radar of law enforcement. His profile had been flagged multiple times, yet he slipped through the cracks, a glaring oversight that could have been prevented with better coordination and vigilance. The SWAT team's warning, ignored and dismissed, a critical oversight that would have dire consequences. The local SWAT team had eyes on Crooks, a man who had been on their radar for some time. They noticed his suspicious behavior, which was becoming increasingly erratic. He stood out, agitated and fidgety. He didn't belong in the crowd, and his actions were raising red flags. The team alerted the Secret Service. They raised concerns, emphasizing the potential threat he posed. But their warnings went unheeded. The Secret Service seemed to dismiss the urgency of the situation. The SWAT team, experienced in reading the subtle signs of potential threats, felt ignored. Their expertise was dismissed, and their voices were not heard. Their warnings fell on deaf ears, creating a sense of frustration and helplessness among the team. The Secret Service, it seemed, was focused on other potential threats, perhaps more obvious but less immediate. They missed the most immediate danger, the one that was right in front of them. The SWAT team watched in disbelief as Crooks moved closer to the former president, their worst fears coming true. Their warnings, so urgent and clear, had been in vain. The sense of urgency was palpable, but it was too late. The breakdown in communication was a crucial factor in the security lapse. It was a failure that could have been avoided. The SWAT team, with their local knowledge and keen eye, could have made all the difference. Their insights were invaluable. But their expertise was tragically sidelined, leading to a preventable disaster. The consequences of ignoring their warnings were severe. Unmasking the gunman. The FBI's investigation. The FBI launched a full-scale investigation. Who was Thomas Matthew Crooks? What drove him to this act of violence? Agents worked tirelessly, piecing together his life. They delved into his past, searching for clues. Crooks, a lone wolf, emerged from the shadows. A picture began to form. He was a recluse, consumed by anger and resentment. Online, he found an outlet for his rage. His digital footprint revealed a dark side: extremist websites, hate-filled forums, conspiracy theories. Crooks had been radicalized online, his mind poisoned by hate. He believed the lies. He saw Trump as the enemy. The FBI discovered a social media account linked to Crooks. The posts were chilling: threats of violence, anti-government rants, racist and anti-Semitic slurs. Section 5. A toxic ideology delving into the gunman's motives. Crooks' motives became clearer. He was driven by a toxic ideology, a potent mix of extremism, conspiracy theories, and hatred. He saw himself as a soldier fighting a righteous war. His online activity revealed a deep-seated hatred for Trump and his supporters. He believed Trump was a tyrant. He saw the rally as his opportunity to strike a blow against the forces he believed were destroying America. Crooks' descent into extremism is a stark reminder of the dangers of online radicalization. The internet has become a breeding ground for hate. Extremist groups exploit social media to spread their poisonous ideologies. The FBI's investigation highlighted the growing threat of domestic terrorism. Fueled by hate and misinformation, individuals like Crooks pose a significant danger to American society. Section 6. The Secret Service, a system in crisis. The Secret Service faced a reckoning. The attempt on Trump's life exposed systemic failures. The agency, once considered the gold standard in executive protection, was now under intense scrutiny. The investigation revealed a culture of complacency. Agents were overworked, morale was low, training was inadequate. The once vaunted agency was struggling to adapt to the evolving threat landscape. The agency vowed to implement reforms. New training protocols were introduced. Communication channels were streamlined. Intelligence gathering was enhanced. But the question remained: would it be enough? The Secret Service, once a symbol of unwavering competence, was now grappling with its shortcomings. The agency faced a long road to redemption. The trust, once shattered, would take time and effort to rebuild. Section 7. Demands for accountability, a nation's outrage. The nation demanded accountability. How could this happen? Who was to blame? Calls for resignations echoed across the political spectrum. Heads had to roll. Lawmakers launched investigations. Congressional hearings were held. The Secret Service was grilled. Answers were demanded. The American people deserved to know how this failure occurred. The blame game raged. Politicians pointed fingers. Pundits offered their hot takes. The public debated the failures that led to the attempted assassination. The nation was divided but united in its outrage. The attempt on Trump's life sparked a national conversation about security. How could the nation better protect its leaders? How could it combat the rising tide of extremism? These questions lingered, demanding answers. Section 8. Repercussions and reforms. A new era of security. The attempt on Trump's life had profound repercussions. Security protocols were overhauled. The Secret Service underwent a top-to-bottom review. No stone was left unturned. Congress passed new legislation. Funding was increased for executive protection. New technologies were deployed. The nation doubled down on its commitment to keeping its leaders safe. The attempt on Trump's life served as a wake-up call. It exposed the vulnerabilities of a system that had become complacent. It forced the nation to confront the uncomfortable reality of domestic terrorism. The reforms, while necessary, were just the beginning. The threat to public figures remained real and ever-present. The nation had to remain vigilant, constantly adapting to the evolving threat landscape. Section 9. The enduring threat. Protecting public figures in a volatile world. The attempt on Trump's life served as a stark reminder. The world is a dangerous place. Public figures are especially vulnerable. Their visibility makes them targets. Their influence makes them threats to those who oppose them. The threat of violence is a constant. It lurks in the shadows. It festers online. It can erupt without warning. Protecting public figures requires a multifaceted approach. Law enforcement agencies must work together. Intelligence sharing is crucial. Threat assessments must be thorough and constantly updated. Technology can play a role, but it is not a silver bullet. Ultimately, the best defense is vigilance. The public must be aware of the threat. They must report suspicious activity, and they must stand united against the forces of hate and extremism.